Has that ever been the case, like throughout history? Can you just sit in a room and just make without doing something to generate revenue? Like Mozart probably had to work pretty hard to get some of those commissions, right? Yeah. To then make his, so it wasn't like they were just like, oh, I'm just fulfilling my heart's desire, and then money just shows up, right? That would be great. That's not the case. I mean, if you don't want to make money, then great. Just make your music and have fun and experience all the joy that can bring you. But if there's money changing hands, then there's got to be some value exchange too. And I don't think just making it is enough anymore, or ever.
It's my plan. Well, I'm happy to be here with Joe Gilder. I have been watching his channels for a while now, and probably you have too, if you are interested in recording and or how to start your own business, especially an online business. So we're going to be talking to Joe today. Joe, thanks for being here.
Super glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So let's start with the first question I ask everyone on this channel. Everyone knows it and may hate it. I don't know. But hey, it's a channel called Make Music Income. So how do you make music income, Joe?
It's a great question. So I grew up as a musician, went to school, got an audio degree, and the options there were go work for free in a studio or find a job. And I was thinking, I'm going to do the one that maybe will make a little money. So I got a job in sales working for Sweetwater, which I'm sure you're familiar with, as a sales engineer there. So I did the 100% commission sales gig for a few years, and all the while making my own music and doing, all the way up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Wow. The beautiful Fort. They're great.
I've been there.
But we had to. We did our 3 years and had to get back here in the South. So, but while I was there, I was making music and doing stuff in the studio, but I had customers who would have questions about, how do I do this? I just bought, an M-Box in Pro Tools. How do I set up a reverb track or something like that? And realizing I couldn't teach them everything over the phone because I needed to go sell something to the next customer, I started a YouTube channel just to teach some of this basic like audio concept stuff that I knew that I could teach on a video and just send them off to go check out the video. So that was Home Studio Corner, which I started in 2009. And probably within a few months of starting it, I realized, wow, first of all, people really are craving this information. And I had a sneaky suspicion they would pay for more of that from me. So initial thought, as big as I could think, was I'll make an ebook. And that'll be, that's as big as I could, right? Everybody thought ebook, at least in the late 2000s. But so as I thought through it more and started to study business and marketing and sales and all these things that were very new to me because I didn't grow up being an entrepreneurial type. And I loved it. It was really fascinating to me. But I started to realize maybe I can make like video courses that people will buy to take the stuff I'm teaching on YouTube and something a little more in-depth, a little more structured, and kind of take them through the whole process. So that's what I started doing. And that turned into the business that I still run today, where I sell courses and memberships as the primary income that I make. I do other stuff. I've been on staff at my church several different times as the worship guy, occasional session work, occasional client work, and other bits and pieces. But the bread and butter is I make a bunch of music and I document that process and teach people how I do it, and round we go. Mm-hmm.
You have a YouTube channel you were just talking about on home recording, and you also have a channel about running your own business, an online business mainly. Mm-hmm. So you must believe in making music income a lot, like that anybody can do this kind of thing if they have the proper training. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. And I'll also kind of with the asterisk of, I think a lot of people, and you probably face this every day, they assume like the way you make money with music is you put out an album and people buy it or something. And that's the one and only way. I think that's the piece that I think is so fascinating by, like, I've got DistroKid that I use for selling my music online and Bandcamp, and I go log in every few months, and there's a couple $100 sitting there waiting for me, right? That's not the primary income. So yeah, I think there's lots and lots of opportunity, whether it's music or anything else, for people who there's no longer the gatekeeper in the sense of a label's got to pick me and then promote me heavily. So I don't have to wait for that, which is great. But I got to kind of figure out where am I going to create value that people will pay for.
Gotcha.
And so that's the thing I talk about a lot.
What do you think is the thing that people get the most wrong when they're trying to make music and make money? I have my own thoughts on this, but I'll ask you.
I think there's a tendency of thinking if I build it, they will come, or just because I made it, I now deserve all the success. I got a comment recently that was like, I just want to make music and I want to make money from it. That's all I want to do. I don't want to have to do anything else. And I think, well, great. That's a great desire. I'm glad you're in touch with your deep desires. But like, I think the place where I go is, has that ever been the case like throughout history? Can you just sit in a room and just make without doing something to generate revenue? Like Mozart probably had to work pretty hard to get some of those commissions, right? Yeah. To then make his, so it wasn't like they were just like, oh, I'm just fulfilling my heart's desire and then money just shows up, right? That would be great. That's not the case. I mean, if you don't want to make money, then great. Just make your music and have fun and experience all the joy that can bring you. But if there's money changing hands, then there's got to be some value exchange too. And I don't think just making it is enough anymore, or ever.
It's my plan. My plan is just to pile about 2,000 songs into sync licensing, and then in about 6 years sit back. If you were starting today, what equipment would you start with? I'm going to get into specific DAWs and microphones and things here in a minute, but how would you get your start if you were just like, okay, go to the Sweetwater side, I got to start in order to produce pretty decent, if not professional music. Let's say you are already a professional, because a lot of people ask me this all the time. What do I get? What do I start with? How do I start? And this could be for a piano, keyboard person, a guitar person, or people who don't play anything. What's the starting point?
For me, starting point would be, I would probably, if I was really just starting, I wouldn't want to overwhelm myself with too much capability too soon. I get if I have a band and we want to record drums, bass, guitar at one time, that's complicated. We're going to need a lot of inputs and mics and all that. But otherwise, if I'm really wanting to learn how this thing works and expand eventually, I'm on team like headphones, microphone, interface, software. Let's make some music, keyboard controller if you need it, and let's just figure out how this music production thing works. I had a customer at Sweetwater he had been like a lifelong postal worker, and he had saved up life savings of like $20,000, and he was going to buy himself a studio, like equipment for he'd always dreamed of having a home studio. And he called me up, told me his dream, and I'm like, that's a great dream. Have you ever recorded before? Nope. I was in a studio once in the 80s. And I said, okay, I can sell you this big palette of stuff, but I think you'd be better off let's just start with a couple pieces and start to learn the ropes. And he was insistent. So we sent him I got a picture of him with his arm on the pallet of all the gear that he bought. Called him a few months later and he had plugged everything in, and that was it. Called him a year later, he hadn't made any music. It was too much. It was such a big hurdle to overcome. So I'm of the just minimum viable rig and make some music, and maybe then that's your permission to go and get the next piece of equipment that you might need. To me, that makes more sense than going too big too early.
I would tell people, have you heard of GarageBand?
Right.
Play with that for a while and see what happens. I mean, to be honest, if we go back to all of us, we started with something simple and then got more crazy. You're not as old as me, but I started when there were no computer things at all. And so it was like, 644 Tascam or something, Porta Studio, and MIDI tracks, right? And
I did my first album on this microphone. Do you remember when the computers used to come with this for, I don't even know what? What is that ancient piece of technology? Granted, mine was on a computer, but it was with this little 1/8" jack in the back of my parents' PC and some cakewalks thing that we had. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, I had cakewalk too.
It was terrible and amazing all at the same time.
I think I know the answer to this because I watch your channel. But can you pick one DAW, one digital audio workstation program? You only have one to pick. Which one is it going to be?
It's
right now.
PreSonus Studio One.
Yep.
Yeah.
I knew that.
I was a Pro Tools guy for a long time. We actually did some work for a rep firm that represented PreSonus, so I had to learn it just to be able to like talk about it, and then it won me over. There was no reason for me to switch to it full time, but between just the fact that I like it and also it's Mac and PC, so it covers all your bases there. It's just been my go-to for a long time. Now, full disclosure, I do work for them now and make videos for them, but I used their stuff for a long time before that happened.
Cool.
Yeah.
What are your runners-up for professional music making and mixing and or recording and then mixing? Are different DAWs better for different things? I know what I believe, but
yeah, I love how you're not going to tell me. I never disliked Pro Tools. It gets a lot of hate, but I liked it. It was a useful tool, especially because I was doing mostly just audio recording and editing. I would go back to that probably in a heartbeat. I used Logic for about a year, loved it, especially all the virtual instrument stuff and the MIDI stuff you could do seemed kind of just really easy to get great sounds right out of the box. Ableton's really fun. I don't know it very well. I just use it for like looping and messing around. That would probably be like my fourth place, but yeah.
I am a Logic guy, but only because I started using it way before there was any instruments. I don't even think there was any instruments when I started using it back in Cakewalk days when everything was just a sequencer. There was no audio associated with it. And then, eventually late 90s when Pro Tools got 24 tracks of digital, all the other DAWs started adding audio. And Pro Tools was like no MIDI, and then they added MIDI. It was kind of backwards. But I'm a Logic guy. I did a special recently. If I had to like switch, which one would I switch to? And I went through all of the major DAWs, including Ableton, FL Studio, if you want to call that a DAW. Just kidding. People know my thoughts about FL. But I ended up with Pro Tools likely. I mean, I've known Pro Tools since I moved to Nashville or before I moved to Nashville, because once you start working with a music city and music professionals, especially engineers, they're professional engineers at a studio in a recording town, you're going to have to deal with Pro Tools because they are. It's built for engineers. It looks like engineers. It still looks the same. I called a session up from I was watching somebody's YouTube video from like 2012. It looks exactly the same. The interface looks exactly the same. It's still terrible looking, but that's a different one because that's for studio recording and then the same engineers are usually mixing, so they mix on it. It's not for home really use. It doesn't come with. It now comes with some plugins, but let's be real. It's not the first place you're going to go to record your MIDI instruments. But I'd say Logic and then Pro Tools and Studio One. I expected Studio One to be kind of like the secondary one I would pick, just because I think it's the most like Logic of all of them. But I like Studio One. I like it a lot. Cubase seems like a unique. For composers, it seems that people are either Logic or Cubase, and I consider myself a composer, and so I think the only other one I would transfer to for composing would likely be Cubase, but that would be a learning curve, whereas I know Logic. I mean, I know Pro Tools, so I could go right to that. You have the money to buy one microphone under $500, and let's say it's mostly for vocals. What's it going to be?
Roswell. If you're familiar with the Roswell Pro Audio, a friend of mine started this microphone.
Aliens?
Yeah, it's in the Area 51. So it's a guy named Matt McGlynn. He maintained this microphone database for years online where you could find every microphone. He eventually developed his own mics. Roswell Pro Audio is what they're called. But the Mini K47, I want to say it's maybe $400 now. It's fantastic. It's like kind of a 47 capsule. It's just, I haven't found anything that it doesn't sound good on. He makes others, but that would probably be the one under 500.
Very good. All right. So same question, but for audio interface.
So 500. See, the $500 gets me. So if it was under $500, I'd go with one of the new. PreSonus has these new quantum interfaces, desktop and rack mount ones that have. I guess they have it. They have a smaller one with like 2 or 4 inputs and a bigger one with 8 inputs. So I'd get the biggest one I could get for $500. It's a good sounding interface. Obviously, I'm a PreSonus fanboy, and these have a direct a reamp output. built in. So now that Fender owns Presonus, they're like, let's throw a little guitar thing in there. So you could reamp guitars without needing like a separate reamp box, which is kind of fun.
I'm looking at my Revelator IO24 right now by Presonus. Well, it's good. I wanted something that looped back so I could do a lot of stuff. And not every interface, surprisingly, loops back very easily. And so I needed that feature, and I wanted something. This was $200 or less, probably. So I'm not recording seriously other than for this or some vocals. I don't do really anything else. So not even on the semi-pro side of recording here in this little room. This is a writing room, really.
Yeah.
Same question, but for monitors. Near fields. Monitors we would monitor on a desk. You know?
Yes, the speakers. I'm probably gonna. So here's the thing: I'll use something and then I'll just use it forever. So I don't really know what's out there. The ones I have in front of me are more than $500. So honestly, I've listened to the Presonus Eris line. They've got whatever the most expensive you can get there, at least the 5-inch woofer on those. Those sound good. You can't crank them; they don't have quite the headroom that I'd like to have, but for under $500, those are fantastic.
Since you are a Presonus Studio One guy, and it works on PC or Mac, do you have any care about which is better to work on, a PC or Mac in music these days?
I prefer Mac, but I can't make any case of it being better or worse. It's literally what I've always used for making music since college, at least. So I had a Mac Mini with Pro Tools, and that's just what I've always used. So, yeah.
I used to be like very middle of the road here. As a matter of fact, behind me, I used to have a PC and I used to have, and then a Mac, and I had both. When I didn't use a Mac until I bought a Mac because of Logic. That's when Apple bought Logic. I had to switch to a Mac. That's why I have a Mac now. Is still because of Logic, probably.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I do think it's a little easier in general operating system wise and file system wise. And a lot of just weird virus stuff and stuff you have to deal with PCs, to be honest.
And hardware compatibility. When there are a million different motherboards to choose from, it's real hard to make your hardware work with all of them. So you have to be real careful about what you buy and which motherboard you have. If it's compatible with that USB device you want to get, you just don't have that as much. It either works with the handful of Mac models that exist or not, which I appreciate.
Yeah. And you know, you don't have to answer so many questions. What kind of this are you going to have? What kind of that are you going to have? What are you going to stick in here? What there? And I know they're coming out with single body Mac Mini type PCs now, but I still think the Mac Mini is the best answer for someone who needs a dependable computer and wants to upgrade it every few years. All right, so let's say you've made the music and it's pretty good. And people are watching your channel on home recording and they know how to make good recordings. Let's say they've gotten there. What do they do then? Do you get this question? Well, like, okay, you've helped me make great recordings, Joe. What do I do now? And how do they make money in 2024 going into 2025?
Now I know that I send them to you because that's the correct answer. I don't know, because I think that's never been something I've done very well or kind of leaned into. I did do kind of back at the beginning of the year, I did a video. The thumbnail is sellout because I get accused of being a sellout. Not that often, but occasionally because I'm teaching this stuff and not like out with a major label release on a top 40 radio. And my point is exactly, isn't that great that opportunity presents itself? I'm a good musician. I'm a good songwriter. I make good music, but I'm not waiting around for Sony to say, I bequeath you my kingdom and you may now be famous or whatever.
It's probably a good thing.
Yeah, right.
It's likely not going to happen.
Well, and I've got friends who are like touring musicians doing 100+ dates a year, and that lifestyle that's a challenging lifestyle too. So I mean, I don't. My answer isn't everyone go make a tutorial video, but I think my answer is think outside the box a little bit more than just I made it. Almost to the point where I feel like the music, at least as like an independent artist, it's almost like the music itself is a marketing tool for something else that will make money. At least that's the way it seems to me. Like the music isn't necessarily the product anymore in that sense. it's a thing. It's kind of it's like the first step. You got to have some music, and then you start figuring out what the business is.
I've been working with artists for a long time, and making the music is the easy part, especially when I was in Nashville and all I did was bring them in. We sat in a session, and it was done in an hour, the track.
It was probably amazing.
It's amazing. And it was like 0 to 60. They just came in with the song, they kind of changed, played it on guitar, and then these guys they played it like they've been on tour for 6 months playing it. And by the end of that, we have a track. As a matter of fact, most people would go, after we got done tracking their whole album or EP or whatever, they'd be like, I'm really nervous because there's no way I can sing as good as that sounds. And then, but we would get that done, and then we'd get, the master done and CDs made or whatever, and they would be like, okay, now what? Or they're really excited because we're going to build a website, we're going to make music videos, we're going to put everything out, we're going to tell everybody on Facebook and everywhere, and they're going to see how people react, and that lasts about 6 months to a year. And I just had a call yesterday from a guy said, I'm out of money. This thing has to make money now. How do I make money? And in 2024, it's one of the reasons why I started this channel, because I thought it would be interesting to talk about all the different ways to make music income. I was into licensing at the time, and I've gotten more into it since I started. Everybody's been kind of watching my journey there. But I also have been a music producer for 30 years. And so that's a way. If you once you learn all the tricks of your trade of home recording and how to record, that's money you can go out and make recording other people. All this to say, I had the conversation with an artist yesterday. He's like, I got to make money. And I said, well, okay, we haven't been here yet. You haven't said, how do I make money? You've just said, how do I get this made? How do I make videos? How to do all this stuff? I'm like, are you ready to get on the road? Are you ready to start doing some marketing on your Spotify and start to rev up your Spotify? You got 5 monthly following listeners right now. You're going to need about 50,000 to 100,000.
Right.
So that's going to take some marketing. And there are people who do that I know. All that to say, it's hard to make money with music, and there's no easy answer. What do you think? That just makes you laugh, doesn't it? This is the thing. Those of us who have been in music for a long time, either making it and wanting. My wanting years of wanting people to listen were the 80s, the 90s, when I would come down to Nashville and I would take a cassette and I would walk into a publisher's office and he'd listen to 3 songs and go, not what we're looking for, but thanks. And I'd drive back to Kentucky. Now that we have all these tools to make music, and what do you think the biggest pitfalls are for musicians who are trying to make great recordings and be successful with them? Probably not things technically, but just pitfalls that people run into.
I mean, one of them is probably is a little more technical than you want, but I run into a lot of people who want to learn how to use all the software to make their kind of mediocre recordings sound amazing. And they don't get that idea. It's funny how you've used the word recording, you've not even used the word mixing, right? There's some people that they're thinking, oh, I just got to slap some stuff down and then all the software is going to make it amazing. And it's just not the case. For like the people doing it themselves, they see all the video. There's, the tools are cool, right? The plugins look neat and they sound fun. But some people can skip over like, oh, let's make sure we've recorded something special first.
Yeah. And then did we write a good song in the first place?
Yes. For sure.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about business and music business, because whether everybody likes it or not, the true answer to what we were talking about earlier as what am I going to do with my music when it's over, you're going to enter the music business somehow. You're going to have to start your own music business, and that might be being an artist, but likely you're going, like you were saying earlier, it might be something music adjacent that your music then works towards. Like, for instance, I can, like you said, do just vlogs where I show people of me working on a song in Logic and saying, here's how I'm developing this track today. And this is going out to a library and that kind of stuff. So I can at once talk about being involved in sync and also show that I'm making music. And so when and why should people start to think about their own business, YouTuber or otherwise?
For me, it really started out as I'm making music because I feel like I was born to make music, so I'm going to make music regardless. And then when I started my channel, it was partially to answer questions for customers, like I said, but also I just wanted a creative outlet outside of work. I had a little self-indulgent blog for a couple years, and I was like, let's make something more useful to the world than me pontificating about stuff that no one cares about. I was like, what do I know? I was like, well, I know music and I know like production, so maybe that'll be my kind of hobby creative outlet. So to me, the thing that you would gravitate towards if there were no money, that's a pretty good indicator that maybe that's the thing. If you can find a way to make money from that, now that's not going to be true of everything, right? But to me, it was just a very natural, hey, this is good. Hey, I'm good at this. Hey, people are getting value from this. Hey, is there a way to make money from it? Like to me, it wasn't like this, I brainstormed and went to a mastermind and got a bunch of advice and then decided this was what I was going to do. I was just kind of naturally doing it anyway, and then it morphed into a business, which may be a frustrating answer, but it feels like a real answer.
I think maybe every artist these days should think about some kind of YouTube channel where they talk about their journey.
Sure.
They document their journey going through it. The problem is most people, like you said, either they want to just make music and immediately get recognition for it just because they feel entitled that they should. Most musicians feel that way. Why isn't everyone just saying this is amazing, and why isn't money being thrown at me? Well, that's never been the way it's worked. Even people who have gotten deals have had to there's no overnight successes. Everybody has had to fight to get seen and heard. And just because you never heard of Esperanza Spalding before she came out, or whoever, Billy Joel, whoever, they all toiled for years, if not a decade, before you actually heard about them.
And the toiling wasn't just toiling over a keyboard writing music.
Right.
Like you said before, like that was almost a given. It was the all the other toiling, the marketing, the connections, all that piece.
Study, gigs, and endless gigs. Beatles. Look at the story of the Beatles from the 50s. They were just doing covers for years.
Yeah.
Outside of London, anywhere they could go, Glasgow, I think, wherever they were going to some terrible place and just playing for years and years and years, doing skiffle and all these other kinds of music that no one has ever heard of. And then they developed and then they met George Martin.
Sure.
So I'm starting to think that YouTube is, and maybe always was, the answer over the last 15 years. And you started in 2009. So that's almost exactly 15 years from now. For successful client and or fan acquisition through content. I don't know if there's a better platform that's ever been made. Do you? Do you agree with that?
I mean, certainly people on TikTok, Instagram, or insert whatever the next app du jour are great and are effective and work. But they're also very temporary, right? Either I come find you on TikTok or I don't, and I'm not engaging with you longer than a minute at a time. So it's just different, right? It's great for entertainment. It's great for wasting a whole lot of time. But like, I don't use TikTok, but I imagine people aren't going there searching for how to make money from music. They're probably going there to see whatever the feed will give them, and they may find something about that. But YouTube is a search engine. What is it? I think the second largest search engine in the world under Google, like the place where people go to search
by
for
Google,
things. Right?
And both of them are owned. Yeah.
They do no search, and people go there, right? If I have a question, it's either Reddit or YouTube. It feels like are the two places that show up with the answer. Is it an old platform? Sure. I saw a video the other day that said it was from 17 years ago, and I was thinking that's wild that that's even possible. But it's a place where people go to look for lots of things. So I feel like it makes sense to be there.
You know, CBS is also old, but a lot of people still watch it. And so as far as TikTok and Instagram, I've been doing them a little bit more in the past few weeks, just as an experiment. And I'm not even sure it's worth doing those as much as it is doing YouTube Shorts, because I do such long content. Right. And I think some people are just like, dude, can't hang. It's too long. I'm like, it's time stamped. I can't help you more than that. You know, if you can't find what you want to watch, what I'm talking about. But they do appreciate the short media. And inside each short or inside each YouTube video, there are links galore that you can put and that you can send them wherever you want to send them, versus Instagram or TikTok, which people are just going like this anyway, and there's no immediate button they could just push to say, go listen to if you want to hear more of this here, and they could click that. They have to know to go to your profile and do all that stuff.
And there's the element of, like, I don't, maybe I'm hardly ever on any of them, but I don't imagine something I posted on Instagram 3 years ago is going to continue to get views and traction. Like, imagine it's dead after the first day or week, maybe, even if it went viral. But like, I have YouTube videos that still get thousands of views that I made many, many years ago, back when I had hair, and it still is working for me and still generating leads for the business and getting new subscribers. So that, I mean, other than, like, I can't think of many places where work that I put in 10 years ago is still like doing something for me.
And called up. I see things called up from years and years. I mean, I've only been on for 3 years or 3.5 years now, but still, I'll see stuff come up from years ago. I think every musician also should have an email list, but especially artists or music businesses or producers who want clients or have clients. I would imagine I am preaching to the choir here, but what do you think about this?
100%. Like, I think YouTube, to me, if I've had to pick one, like, public platform, that's it. But for me, the whole purpose of YouTube is to provide value and to get them on my email list, because I have made just about every penny that I've made online the last 15 years has been from sending a plain old email to an email list. And no, I'm not spamming them every day. It's just, there are very few, like, I can't think of an app that I check every day. Yeah. I've had seasons where I'm in Instagram every day or in Facebook every day, but even those. But email, absolutely, I'm checking. And if I'm not reading your email, I'm at least seeing that you sent something, and so you're staying in my brain on some level. And it's still a way to get you and I have a moment one-on-one for just a second, if nothing else. I can't think of a way to do that other than calling you on the phone, which I did that for a while at Sweetwater. That wasn't this one. But yeah, it's the foundation of everything, I think, because it's one-to-one communication in a way that it still works and is effective.
A lot of the bigger creatives are really focusing on their email list right now, are really focusing on emails that tell stories. They don't just like offer a link. Yours as well. And they provide really valuable content. And like I said, and like you said, that's the first thing I do when I try to get up and like read the Bible and get some sunshine and do things, first. But I'm not, sometimes you're just like, I wonder if I heard back from this. And the best way to know that is from your email list, especially if you're a business person or if you've sent an email to somebody you're hoping a response comes back to professionally. You want to see that first thing in the morning. It's fun to find out if a new opportunity is happening for you. It's kind of like if you were looking for a job and you had emailed somebody the day before. You're going to check your email first thing in the morning, see if they got back to you about that job. And all music is a job. Every music opportunity is a job. And every musician, I don't care if you're an artist, a composer, a producer, you don't have to be a YouTuber, selling courses to have an email list that works for you in some way. Talk about a way to get everybody to go look at your next video if that's what you want them to do, or go look at hear your next Spotify tune. If you have an email list of interested people, that's the best way you're going to get them there. Unless you pay for advertising, and this is
they're
free.
Not going to come check my YouTube channel every day. They may not go to YouTube at all. So it's a way for me to get in touch with you, even if you've stopped using YouTube for a while.
How important is the website today? Like your home website for musicians, composers, producers, and or teachers?
To me, in my head, I think it doesn't matter all that much. I think you need a place for people to come find out about you, especially if you're a musician or if you're trying to like have a demo, like some sort of demo reel of your work. Like, make it easy for people to find it. But for me, the purpose of the website is to have some simple web pages where I can get you to sign up to my email list. So if you watch my videos, every video I promote some sort of free thing in exchange for an email. It's a super old way of doing it, and it works. And you go to that link, and it's a page where all you can do on that page is sign up or not. That's it. Yeah. To me, that's super important. Now, I still put my videos on a blog section on the site, and I still have an about page because that's helpful, and a contact page. People use that every day. but I don't. I set it up once, and I'm not like obsessing about it, and I don't think about SEO or anything else. It's just kind of a hub that you kind of have to have, but I don't put much.
It only changes
thought
when
into
we make something new, probably.
Right. Yeah.
How important is social media outside of YouTube? I feel like Instagram and TikTok are islands. I feel like if you send someone to your TikTok or to your Instagram or now even to Facebook, and how many times has this happened to you? You say, oh, I got to go on Facebook and check my Facebook page. You go to Facebook, you see a post from somebody, you chase a rabbit trail, you log off Facebook, you start to walk away, you're like, dang it. I meant it. There was something I went there for.
100%. Yes, absolutely.
And so I think it's Facebook has lost. I don't know how you perceive Facebook these days, but I can't get anybody to follow anything on a Facebook page anymore, really. And I only use my personal for like 50 people that I want to see the post. You know.
Yeah,
so.
I've simplified to YouTube. I don't even do shorts. I don't do the community post thing. I just make my videos and I make my emails. And that's it. I have a Facebook page. I haven't posted to it in years. I used to post all my videos like natively there and on YouTube.
Yeah.
I never saw any other than it was there, and that's technically the right thing to do. It wasn't like it was, I suppose there's a chance of the going viral within that algorithm versus this algorithm, but otherwise I got to a point where I'm not seeing any tangible benefit here. Why not just keep it simple and just keep kind of the bare minimum? And that's worked well. That's not to say there's not value. It's just there's lots of good things that I don't do. They're good. They're just not a good fit.
This may or may not go in the video, but what's your demo? Mine it seems to be like 25, 35, 35 to 45 mostly on YouTube, at least for this channel.
There's a good chunk that's in that kind of 30s and 40s. I would say that it feels like my customers are older. I got a good chunk of retired and are finally got time to make music in that crowd, and have some money and understand the value of learning from other people. That skews older. I think that's true of like any business where people are learning stuff. It seems like an older crowd kind of appreciates that more than a younger person who is maybe broke and also just wants to figure it out themselves, which is fine.
My kids are grown. I quit music early because of my family or my job or whatever, and now I'm coming back to it in my 50s. I've had a billion of those as well.
Same here.
As a producer for clients. I just feel like, though, that TikTok, and especially TikTok, I feel like it's Fiji. You know, it's just there's no way to get back from it easily to where I need people to get to. And same thing with Instagram, really, kind of too. I think it's probably closer. It's certainly my demographic, but I just feel like you're not going to get people from there to where you really want them, which is YouTube and or to your landing page or your website or someplace like that.
And it depends on like what you're after. If you're going after, you want to just entertain and kind of play that game and hope it goes real big virals to where you're getting asked to go on the Tonight Show, then yeah, probably playing on those platforms makes more. Like I don't think Jimmy Fallon's going to be calling me anytime soon because of my home studio YouTube channel, right? But there's an entertainment value, right? That's the reason people just endlessly scroll on the shorts and it's because it's entertaining. That's a piece of it. My business is for not those people.
Who knows? He may get done with the Tonight Show and he said, "Hey, I've been waiting to do music all this time, Joe.
That's true.
And I'm ready now.
Call me, Jimmy.
I've been watching your channel." Good luck with that. All right, so let's jump into AI for just a sec. I've only got 2 questions here. Are you using any AI tools in your work, either musically or just for general tools for helping you get stuff? And how do you advise people to use or not use AI tools in recording on
Good
that
question.
side of things?
I can be a bit of a Luddite. I don't tend to like anything that's new and flashy. I occasionally use ChatGPT almost just for fun. Actually, when I get into I have this weird side hobby where I occasionally try to learn how to code things, and I'm really bad at it and don't know anything, but it knows usually, although it's wrong about 80% of the time. But sometimes it gives me the right little snippet that I need. That's useful. I've used the latest version that seems to be a good bit smarter. I used it to help brainstorm some ideas for a new product, which was kind of helpful. I was like, hey, I need some more, like, give me some alliterations around this idea. And it gives me a bunch of, dumb alliterations, but a handful that I didn't think of myself. So I could see that being useful for songwriting or something. Just give me some words and synonyms and things like that. The only place musically that I use it is Studio One just rolled out an integration with Splice, where I can you can take what you're working on, drag it in, it'll bounce down a bounce, and then Splice will use AI to go find samples and sounds that fit that music. Not just tempo wise, but like if it has a chord progression, it'll go find stuff with that same chord progression so that it fits. That's pretty interesting. So it's not generating, AI is not generating the music, but AI is helping go find, it's perusing this library of 500,000 things to find the ones that work. That's pretty interesting to me. But other than that, no, I don't use it much at all.
I've only used it for artwork all the time,
cool.
for covers and stuff like that. Both in Photoshop, they have a generative fill type feature or something like that, where you can take stuff out. But that stuff has been around for a long time. And then I use it for musically. I've started using Stem Splitter way more than I thought I would. And here's why. Not because I want sounds from songs that people own. But clients come to me, and this could be something you think about for your, to teach on your channel, because I think it's a great tool. If I have a client and they say, I want a song that has this feel, it's this song by, I literally had a client tell me last week, I said, can you think of a song that this sounds like? Because he just sang it into a mic. I have clients all the time that just sing me a song and it's in Spanish. And I'm just, there's no rhyme or reason to anything. And I'm like, I need a tempo or, as they used to say in Nashville, I want to know where one is, I just want to know where the click starts.
Oh,
and he says, oh, yes, I have the perfect song, Thriller by Michael Jackson. I said, boy, that's obscure. And so but I literally went and got Michael Jackson. I got Thriller. I pulled it into Logic. I did the stem splitter. I took out everything but the drums. And then I put my tempo I made it conform to my tempo, and which Logic does fairly easily. And or you could take what you were working on and conform to its tempo if that's what the client wants and whatever. And no, I'm not going to use that, of course, but at least it's like a scratch drums track start to that they already like. And I've been doing this now with country tunes. I'm working for a library that wants country tunes, and they've been referring to all these current like country tunes and stuff. And so I've been pulling those in. And again, I'm really only taking the drums. Another guy did a Christmas song, and he kind of used a Toby Mac song track to sing over. And so I took that Toby Mac track, same thing. I just brought in the drums, and I had the exact groove. He actually sang to this. And so I had it as a track to use. It's just so helpful for that kind of guidance thing.
See, I wouldn't have, because Studio One just added stem separation. So I'm like, it's cool for removing a vocal. I can't think of how else it's used. That's really interesting.
Oh, I have another good example. I'm doing a jazz version or a new version of Windmills of My Mind, I think is what it's called. And years ago, Sting did a version of it. And it was really cool. It was in the remake of a movie, and they did this kind of jazzy, smooth jazz kind of version of it with Sting singing it, and it's really cool. One of my favorite tunes. And so I wanted to do a version of that because I'm doing some covers, and somebody suggested they might want a cover of that song. Plus, I just like it. And so I downloaded the song, and I kept two things: the drums, which gave me the groove that I kind of wanted to at least play. I was going to record upright bass to it, and then I was going to I'll do a lot of times upright bass samples because I got great upright bass samples, which is not a hard sample.
It's super convincing, yeah.
But especially Trillion and Spectrasonics bass I have, it's very good. And then I will have a beat to play to, just some loop or something. And instead of a loop, I just use the drums from that thing to kind of play to. We ended up not using them, and I have a jazz drummer in Nashville replay it, and it's now going to be kind of a trio type tune. But we're playing, and we're listening to Sting sing the vocal while we're recording it. So Sting is the temp vocal.
So good.
So, and I have a guy in Nashville actually who there's a Sting cover band, or used to be at least, called Soul Cages. And they play a lot at Third and Lindsley and stuff like that. You know, one of those kind of all session player band kind of things. And like Smoking Section and some of the other ones, Egomaniacs. But they did all Sting stuff. And this guy, Tom Emby, he sounds just like Sting. He can just do Sting exactly. And we've already done a few things like that. So my plan is to have him sing it. But still, while we're making the track, the drummer, me doing the bass, everybody messing with it, got to play with Sting. And I sent it to a keyboard player in Nashville, and I said, okay, jazz guy, I said, would you like to play with Sting as the email subject line? But you can, because you can stem split all this stuff out and then just kind of groove with that. Of course, you're going to replace it and not use it. Let's be clear. We're not using any of those pieces, because Content ID and everything else will hear it and strike you.
100%.
Or worse. But I find Stem Splitter easy to use. The other thing that I have been using is a program called Otomy, which is like a vocal replacer. And it has 40 or 50 royalty, like people who are getting royalties every time you use their voice to record something. And they've given, you basically the rights. It's similar to like a Spitfire strings library, that you're playing with keys, except I will sing. I'm the singer.
Okay.
And several of these are already going to libraries, and my libraries are telling me it's fine. Nobody cares about in sync licensing that are behind TV shows and stuff.
Sure.
It's not exactly. I mean, there are some things that are based on artists, but sometimes they just want a vocal back there. And so I'm using this, and it's pretty good. I mean, you got to really work with it and figure it out and tune it, and you got to sometimes re-record your voice doing things, because there's some sibilance issues if you're not careful and all this. But I have making it work, and it's cool. And if nothing else, it's great for demo vocals, scratch vocals, where you say, all right, this is a girl song. How many times? I can't tell you that I've had a band play to something. I sing the demo, but the problem is I'm singing an octave lower from where the actual vocal's going to be. Well,
it's a whole
I can stick this in here, jump it up an octave, and then they can be singing to a girl's voice, and the guitar player knows where to not play. And all that kind of stuff. So I'm using those things right now.
That's awesome.
And all right, so here's some of the last questions. Do you make any music yourself just for fun? And when in the world do you find time to do this?
Well, so that's the fun part. I joke. I was telling somebody recently, when I was a kid and I was like, I want to be a musician, my mom, who's a fantastic piano player, was like, sweetie, musicians are a dime a dozen. And I was like, oh, Ma, it's my dream. So she was glad that I was studying audio instead of music, which is funny because it's not any better. But then years later, I've started this YouTube channel and I've started this business working for myself, and go home for Christmas or whatever. And she's like, when are you going to do something with your music? And I'm like, you're killing me, lady. I do this thing. So I don't, for me, my whole business is my excuse to make music. I want to make music. And so I make music, and then I use that music in all different ways to help other people make music. That's the dream. So I haven't made much music this year, if I'm honest. I put together a band of two buddies, and we put out an EP last year. And then I've released a bunch of stuff under my own name in many of the years prior. I did do a Christmas song right at the end of last year with my kids, which was super fun. So we did a kind of a Christmas cover thing. So, I don't make tons, but I basically make them. I'll go without making music for a while, then I'll get the itch, and then I'll make it happen. And I can excuse that because it gives me all kinds of information and stuff to use for the business. So it's a very productive use of my time, which I'm thankful for.
I have to say, and I want to ask you this, do you still wake up every morning with all the things that you do giddy and just ready to do this? Is it exciting to you, this whole life that you have of these videos, or is it a job?
It is. It can be a little bit of both. I go through seasons where just like mentally, like I have a lot of anxiety and a little bit of depression struggle. So like that's a thing that comes in waves, right? That's kind of has nothing to do really with my work. But no, I'm in a season right now where it is really fun. I really do enjoy it. It's work, right? Coming up with a weekly video 15 years in, that's that starts to become a bit of a slog.
It's work after 3.
But also it's fun to find ways. All right, how are we going to make this fun? How are we going to change things up and make it to where I'm having fun? Because if I'm having fun, you're more likely to get more out of it than if I'm bored to tears. So, yeah, I love the idea of building a body of work. So musically that, but also like this, like the content that I put out, and it being able to like look back and be like, look at all the stuff I made. That's cool. I'm proud of that.
Do you think that there will be a time, let's say, the people who dream of retirement so that they can do the thing they always wanted to do? Do you think that there is a time in your life coming up where you will say, all right, this is all working, I may pull back a little bit, and I just want to make some music for fun for a while? Is that a thing you think about? Or is there another hobby? Is there like, I don't know, paper mache or something I don't know about?
You caught me. I was just doing paper mache downstairs before. No,
I wondered why that stuff was all over your hands.
I'm big into. That's why my hands are down here. I'm big into my 14-year-old kid is on the mountain bike team, and so I've been helping coach that team. The season just ended. So riding mountain bikes is really fun when I don't as long as I don't crash and die. But no, I've set up my business in such a way that I take a lot of time off, so I don't. Yeah. I buck against the idea of do all the fun things later. So like in the summer, this past summer, I just worked 2 days a week so I could be off with the kids and we could just be lazy or have fun or go do stuff. Most weeks I'm taking Fridays off, and when the kids have off, I'm off. I'm usually done with work by 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So I've kind of tried to make it a life that has a lot of leisure built in, which I recognize.
You built passive income.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I create assets that generate. I mean, I still have to work, still have to do some pretty active promoting stuff. I'm just like this week I'm releasing a new course. We're in the middle of launch. So there's that. But even with all that going on, I still don't work all the time because that's not what I want to do.
I know this sounds very braggy and very like, oh, well, good for you.
Right.
But I am in a state right now, and mainly because I just left a teaching job that I've been doing for 2.5 years where I was leaving here at this time of day, and I wasn't coming home till 12:30 because it was a night class.
Wow.
5 days a week, like 9 to 10 hours out of my day. And I was planning, I just left it. I just said, I can't do this anymore. And because, licensing was stacking up and more things were getting used and PRO checks were getting bigger. And I said, I need to put the full extent of my powers into this, if Superman used the full extent of his powers for everything, he would blow up the world. Right. And yes, I am calling myself Superman, but, I'm comparing myself to Superman.
That's fair.
But I can barely sleep right now because there's so many albums I have going on. This is like the most exciting time in my life. And it is fun. And it's especially at this age, most people are like going down. I don't, have you seen John Williams lately?
No.
John Williams, like interviews with John Williams, the composer. He is 92.
Is he really?
And he is just like sharp as a tack, and just did Indiana Jones a year or two ago, the new score. And I think that's because of all the music stuff going on. It's like, there's just all this thinking going on all the time about things. Now that could probably also cause a stroke, but so
if it doesn't kill you,
right? But I think also it can keep your brain active and focused and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that's what happens with me. I know where I'm going when I die, so it's no big deal. But I still would like a lot of time to do some stuff.
And so, I think I'm in the same vein. Like I don't see myself quote retiring. Right? I feel like there will always be something I'm working on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, man, thanks so much. I appreciate your. Hey, listen, I am as big a fan as I am a colleague, but I just really appreciate all your videos. I watch them, and it's you're part of my list, which is way too long of things to watch. I literally sit on the couch. I'm a TV YouTuber watcher, and I'm one of those. And so I will just sit on the couch, and that's my veg time, usually before bed, which is good and bad because sometimes you can get really into something. Thanks so much for being here, and I'm going to put all your information down below, and anything else you want me to put in there, you just tell me, and I will put it in there.
That's great, man. Eric, thank you so much. This is fun.
My pleasure, man. Talk to you soon.
All right. Now get off my lawn.
Yeah, really.